you all for coming to today's webinar on Returnuary. If you did not know, this week specifically is the highest return week for retailers of any week out of the year. So this is a really important week for all of us, especially looking back at all of our goals for 2023 and saying, okay, did we actually hit our numbers, or are we going to be starting the year in a deficit? So we've got some really amazing speakers for you guys today. We also have, so we're going to do some introductions for all of our speakers. Then we're going to do a guided panel where you'll get to hear from all of these amazing experts. And then we'll take questions from you guys. I'm not seeing any questions or chat yet, so I'm going to make sure that we've got that enabled for everybody from our team. So as soon as that's up and running, we'll let you guys know and we can get everyone dropping into the chat room. So yeah, let's start with just a quick introduction of each of our speakers. So we'll start with Ledoux, and you can introduce yourself, tell us a bit more about you and about Hawke Media.
Yeah, my name is Ledoux. I work for Hawke Media. We're kind of data-driven performance marketing and strategy team. Been around for about 10 years. I've been with the company for about eight of them, so seen the whole evolution of the business and work with many hundreds of brands and like to think I've learned a lot along the way, and looking forward to sharing some insights with you guys.
Thanks, Ledoux. And Adam?
Hey, Adam Schoenbaum. But I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done everything from construction all the way to apparel. So started a company called Rekeepit for this exact reason, right? Saw a need for helping to mitigate returns. So excited to tell a little bit more about Rekeepit and as we go through this.
Amazing.
Hi everyone, I am Eleanor. I am a product manager at Signifyd. We're a commerce protection platform protecting our merchants from fraud and abuse losses at all stages of the customer journey. Obviously today we're talking about returns, which is one of my huge areas that I cover.
Hello everyone, so I'm Erin Watt. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, so shout out to all the Canadians that are joining today's webinar. I am one of the tech partner managers over at TripleWhale, and prior to this, I was fortunate enough to work with Gorgeous as their tech partner manager. And for anyone that's newcomers and exploring TripleWhale for the first time, TripleWhale is your all-in-one tool that consolidates your vital metrics and your attribution into a user-friendly and beautiful dashboard. Essentially, TripleWhale provides you that complete view of your customer profiles, where they came from, their engagement with your campaigns, websites, and products, while also offering a snapshot of your integrated tool performance.
Awesome. And hi everyone, I'm Megan. I will be moderating today's conversation. I'm our head of partnerships at retention.com. I've been in the e-commerce and technology space for quite a while now. I actually used to work over at Signifyd with Eleanor, so it's nice to see a friendly face back in the room. Yeah, so retention.com, we are the leaders in on-site identity capture. So identifying who is actually visiting your site, what actions they're taking, and how you can continue that relationship with that person after they leave your website. So today's conversation is really going to focus on all of those relationships that we built throughout the holiday season and going into 2024. There's going to be returns, which are going to be really awesome ways to build relationships with people that have never experienced your brand before, and they're going to be really important. So we're going to kick off with our amazing panel, and we're going to start by talking about paid and social. So Ledoux, I'm going to start by asking you, because you've got a lot of that Hawke Media experience there. How do you leverage your new customers through paid social and paid media?
Yeah, there's a couple things you can do depending on the channel. With Google, you can use a lot of that first party data as a campaign focus in 2024, right? To extend that customer lifetime value. You can get into cross-selling and upselling new products through dynamic retargeting campaigns and advantage shopping efforts. So a lot you can do that's really with paid social. We'll say Meta specifically. With Google, you can really split the focus into two chunks in order to grow efficiently. You can continue to leverage shopping and Performance Max campaigns to drive that bulk of revenue from high intent and middle bottom of the funnel active shoppers. You can leverage first party data and contextual targeting kind of in lieu of the depreciating cookie targeting accuracy, right? To drive awareness via YouTube in Q1 and Q2. You capitalizing on highly engaged but cheap CPC traffic in the early part of 2024 will, just as it always has, drive massive revenue growth opportunities for in Q3 and Q4. Contextual targeting means running ads on specific channels, right? So videos and placements instead of like traditional audience targeting with cookies.
And do you think that there's specific channels that's really valuable to reach these holiday customers in versus, say, your typical like evergreen shopper?
I mean, really the big two, right? Meta and Google. Obviously, there's a lot you can do on the other paid social platforms with TikTok from a lot of that data you've collected, but it really just depends on the brand and where your audiences live, right? Obviously, email is going to be a big opportunity, right? What you guys do at retention, email is going to be a huge opportunity, and happy to kind of dive into email if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I think email is a really interesting way because, I mean, feel free to drop in the chat who's had quite the experience with getting about 450 emails in December from every single brand that you've signed up for a message from. So email is a pretty tricky one where it comes in of, you've got a lot of messaging and a lot of fatigue that comes right after the holiday season. And you have a lot of customers that, again, this is their first time interacting with your brand. They might have gotten this as a gift. They might have, found a really good deal or sale. So when it comes to conversation and email, you really want to make sure that you're trying out a couple different strategies and you're really going with a lot more on the brand education. Who we are, what we're doing, why you bought this product from us, and maybe you just bought it because it was on sale, but why should you continue buying more products from us? So when you get that new customer segment, it's really important to test out a couple different ways to interact with them rather than just putting them into that flow with your pre-existing customer base. They're not the same person because they haven't shopped there before. So there's a lot of different strategies that we could really put into play when it comes to email, but I would say test and learn is a really great approach to figure out who those customers are that just visited your site for the first time.
Totally. And then, leveraging reviews. You've collected all this data. You've gotten a lot of email addresses. It's a great time to do some campaigns around driving more reviews for the business, getting more of that social proof, doing that through email, doing that through SMS, also collecting some of that first party data, right? Maybe you're asking questions of you're looking at those post-purchase surveys, looking at that data you can use for further segmentation in the new year, right? And then rewarding, people who have purchased in the holidays, right? Rewarding them, right? Looking at doing exclusive benefits, trying to drop them into loyalty. It's just a great time with you guys, with your brand fresh on their mind to drop them into some of these kind of high LTV initiatives and a great time to get more social proof.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Erin, do you have anything that you really see that's like different in that space? Like so for some context, everyone, TripleWhale gets to see everything happening across all these different platforms. So do you see that spend kind of shift in the new year? Does it fluctuate around a bit through these different channels?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that we noticed in some of the 2023 data that we impact is like obviously like those legacy platforms like your Meta and your Google, like they're not going anywhere, but they're definitely getting way more expensive and they have been getting more expensive. And the really cool one, and so if you do have some experimental marketing budget that you're able to kind of throw out there, TikTok was really kind of like the big winner that we've noticed that a lot bigger brands are definitely investing into. But when it comes to like the return on ad spend, there was, let me just look at my number again. It was like a 58% increase in return on ad spend for TikTok. So it is that one channel that I do see a lot more larger brands, but even now some of maybe the smaller brands kind of putting some of that experimental marketing budget towards as it has been for what they're going to get out of it, the best on return on investment.
That's really awesome. Anyone else on the panel have anything to contribute on this front?
I think from, so I'm the CEO of a company called Just the Population. So on the brand side as well. So I think we're seeing the same thing, right? From an ad spend, just trying to drive traffic, hyper focused on email right now. I know that you said everybody's overwhelmed with email, but by incentivizing our customers, I think that, we're getting a great ROI on that.
Yeah, no, I love that with the incentives. Erin?
Just like a point on that email too, I think that email is overwhelming. I mean, I subscribe to everything, so I see it firsthand. But I do find that anything that really attracts my attention are the ones that really are good at segmentation of their customers and understanding how to target their audience with campaigns that are really geared for my engagement and like my purchasing patterns as well too. So if they knew that I bought a lipstick and historically in their sales data it showed that lip scrubs tend to pair really well with those, their email to me to kind of get my next purchase is going to be geared towards that lip scrub that they know just historically ties really well together. So I do find the ones that I do pay attention to, I feel are the ones that are more personalized to me.
I love that. And I think that personalization is really important. For those in the audience, feel free to either drop in the chat any strategies, any tactics, any things that you've tried out, as well as throw any questions in the questions section. We will have a Q&A section at the end of the presentation for this panel to answer any of your questions. So, we're trying to be as interactive as possible here. So if you've had something that worked really well for you, I really love the idea of a January promo. I've seen actually a couple of those, and those things that I didn't get over the holidays that I need, I've actually been able to use some of those promos and discounts. So I think it's a really interesting strategy to really continue that through and into the new year, especially if people are, say, returning a product and then you're giving them a discount on that next item that they're looking to buy. So yeah, these are really, really awesome insights, guys. Thanks. Great. So let's move on from paid and social and let's talk more about tracking and measuring. So Erin, I'm going to start with you because I will count you as the tracking and measuring queen here. But Eleanor, I know that Signifyd has a ton of transaction level data, so I'll probably pass it right over to you after. But how can brands really utilize the data that they collected on the holiday season?
Yes, and I mean, data, I don't know about anybody else, but I find it very overwhelming, which is, working with TripleWhale, I've already learned a lot from them, being able to show me not only what the data is, but then how to utilize it and to really kind of utilize that data over the holidays. You definitely want to be implementing a few different strategies and some actionable tips that I can provide that you can actually start utilizing right now. So I would say like the first is analyzing kind of like your customer purchase behavior and preferences. So once again, like as we were talking about before, this will really kind of help you create more personalized marketing campaigns in the new year so that you can really tailor your offers to those specific interests or even demographics. Another one would be kind of like leveraging your data to better understand inventory planning and also management. So kind of diving into that holiday data to either like spot trends and patterns, also being able to prevent shortages so that you're able to stock up on those in-demand items, and then also being able to adjust those prices based on fluctuating demand. So for example, if a product saw a big sale boost during the holidays, you really kind of want to take the steps to keep it available or even run promotions to maintain that popularity. Yeah. Another big one too is just kind of leveraging those data insights to also refine your customer engagement strategies. So, really being able to kind of understand how your customers are interacting with you during the holiday period. And that might either be through those communication channels like your Instagrams, your Facebooks, or as we're talking about those promotional efforts through email campaigns, and just really prioritizing those platforms for those future marketing efforts really does become essential. And then lastly, I would say like utilizing that holiday data and also utilizing like an analytics tool such as like TripleWhale to kind of help you just forecast those future trends and helping you decide those like long-term business decisions. So by having the right analytics tool in place, you can actually begin to start anticipating consumer preferences, planning for those upcoming product releases or even seasonal campaigns, and then also just adjusting those operational strategies based on those forecasts. So for instance, if the data predicts that increased demands for a specific product, brands can start allocating those resources to even meet those future needs.
I love that. I think that's so important, that looking at that inventory mix and understanding was this a really cool product? Now, when you're looking at that product that maybe sold really like far through, almost sold out, are you also looking at that returns data to see if that product actually stayed out of the store?
100%, because I also feel that the returns data also can help you understand the customer overall experience. A bad returns process, so if it was either a bad product, so that just means that like maybe you need to go back and actually look at making adjustments to the product, or if it was just the fact that it didn't work for the customer itself, what was that process looking like for them? What was their experience for them? And how are you able to ensure that they're going to be becoming a return customer based on that return process? So I do believe that like the return process is actually super critical on how that customer is either going to engage with you next time or if they're going to be a repeat customer. So that data is something that you want to also consider.
Yeah, I love that. And Eleanor, I'd love to hear from you on that front as well, because I know a lot about Signifyd's returns products and how you can actually tailor those experience based on those different customers.
Yeah, hearing Erin talk about like promotion strategy and personalization strategy and all that was like triggering a lot of exciting thoughts for me, because Signifyd obviously approaches data and how we use data very differently, because we are focused on obviously fraud prevention. Like as we're talking about things like, hey, this particular product maybe did gangbusters, like let's consider doing a promo for it. We can help you solve problems and want to help our merchants solve problems. Like, are the right promotions getting used in the right way? Like maybe you only want to let someone use a promotion once. There's many easy ways around that, and Signifyd like helps that happen. So then all of this money that you're spending obviously on acquiring these customers and keeping these customers, we make sure you're not bleeding out on the other side, covering all of these abusers or these fraud losses and things like that. Holiday is a really interesting time for fraud too. In particular, like we often see a lot of promotions around particular products that are buzzy, or we see particular really popular products like try to restock in time for the holidays. It just attracts fraud because of the volume. So that's kind of where it's really important to have this top of the funnel strategy, and it's really important to have this bottom line protection to make sure that you are maximizing there.
Yeah.
And to kind of circle it back to returns, returns is so important in all of this too, because I loved hearing Erin talk about the process and like what you're seeing and how important the process is. Everybody wants to have an amazing returns process. Everyone wants it to be free. Everyone wants you to get a refund as soon as possible to keep you happy. And I think we were seeing like 13% of returns are abusive now. So it's money that people shouldn't be getting back for various reasons. So we are having a bit of a pendulum swing, I would say, in the industry right now.
So Eleanor, for the audience, can you explain what an abusive return is?
Yeah, there's a ton of different use cases that all fall into abusive returns. It can be something like claiming you haven't received an item to get a refund at a very straightforward level, all the way through to, I know some of you who are attending might have policies like refunding as soon as a package scans. Fraudsters for sure know you do that, and they'll send you back rocks, potatoes, old things to get those refunds. There's a lot of very clever things out there. I think the craziest I've seen is particular fraudsters are starting to use invisible ink on tracking labels, so it then looks like the package got delivered to where they think it's supposed to be going as a merchant side, but really was an empty envelope that went to some random thing somewhere. And then obviously your poor customer success and support teams want to keep that person happy, so there goes that money out the door.
That's wild. And also we know that the entire returns process is also really challenging, even for the brand side, taking away that abuse part. 25% of returns are just damaged, destroyed, and go straight into a landfill. And returns is a $40 billion hit on our market. So Adam, can you tell us more about Rekeepit and how you're approaching a different look at returns?
Yeah, so we're trying to reward good behavior, right? Rather than trying to mitigate bad behavior. So what we're doing is we're taking a customer that might be a loyal customer to you or might be a new customer, right? That is coming from somewhere. We're trying to incentivize them, via thoughtful shopping, right? So probably the opposite of over consumerism, where people are buying 7 of something, returning 1. We want them to look at size charts, study the product, make sure it's what they want, and then from there we'll reward them for committing to not return something. So
So what are some of those rewards? Like, is that a discount up front for saying that you won't return it? Is that a coupon code to buy the right product and then keep the old one? Like, what are some of the options customers
Yeah,
have?
we have a couple of different flows. We have a pre-purchase and a post-purchase, right? On the pre-purchase, it's actually incentivizing them with a cash discount on the product, right? So if they're looking at it, whether it's in their mini cart or their card or on the product page, they can check a box and say, the brand comes up with 100% of whatever those discounts are, right? So if the brand wants to offer 10% on new arrivals and the customers there like, oh, I love this, I'm not going to return it, they can select to not return it, get a 10% discount on that product.
Nice.
So, on the post-purchase side, it's all about retention, right? We're trying to get, I think mitigating bad behavior, you really need to look at getting the right customers back to your site, right? People that know their size, people that, have committed to not return something or haven't returned something, right? So on the post-purchase side, we're actually sending them an email 48 hours after they get their product saying, do you love your product? Do you like your product? Are you going to keep it? And for, keeping it at that point, we're going to give them money off that product towards their next purchase, right? So really we're driving the retention play, getting them back to that site. So.
Yeah, that's really great. And, for everyone listening, we'd love to hear some of your strategies, really keeping customers in and not having to deal with the arduous returns process. But yeah, we'll move on to our next conversation piece on customer journey. So this one really kind of talks on who that customer is that purchases in the holidays, and how their post-customer journey really looks. Maybe this person isn't going to return until the next holiday season. Maybe they didn't even start at all, and the first time that they're coming to your website is to make that return. And then also, like, what is that return experience, and how can those different return experiences work for these different types of customers, whether they're a first-time customer or a returning customer. So Eleanor, why don't we kick off with you on some of these different options for that post-customer journey? How do you really make those VIP customers feel special, and how do you stop those potentially fraudulent ones?
Yeah, absolutely. I think to what Adam was talking about earlier, like returns and having a good experience for your good customers is so important, because I think the last stat I read was that if someone has a bad returns experience with you, there's a 75% chance they're not coming back. So it's really, really crucial in that retention play, in that customer lifetime value play. So at the VIP level end, we have recommendations where we would say this person is great, Signifyd has never seen a problem for them. Give them a credit that they can shop with right now as they're doing their return. Maybe offer them that instant exchange or that literal instant refund in certain cases. Maybe this person is really valuable to you and we can say, great, roll out the red carpet. Why don't you arrange for their box to get picked up without packaging? So then that return process is, they don't even have to walk out the door. We also then can help with maybe, let's say, more middle of the path experiences where you do get a free return, but maybe your item has to get inspected before you get a refund. And really what we focus on is customizing all these different flows based on someone's both abuse through the Signifyd network and your own like business preferences and operational footprints, to make sure then that those abusers are effectively segmented out from those great process. So you can have this great, amazing experience while not having the financial burden of abuse kind of drive down that whole thing. I'm seeing a huge trend recently this past return season of people also trying to drive people to return brick and mortar as much as possible if they have the footprint to support that. So incentives to come in store to do your return versus sending something back. And I think that is something that's really interesting, as shipping costs have also gotten out of control. So anything we can do to minimize.
That's awesome.
I have a question. I'm curious. Do you feel that the reason why customers are now going to brick and mortars to do their returns is because of the sustainability, like their carbon footprint, they are more conscious of that? Or is it because of the customer service side of things? Do they find that they're getting better customer service and they're able to, let's just say, like exchange their products for something right there and then versus the wait times or, the return hassle that they might have to go through? So it's just easier.
I think it's probably easier first. There's also a certain amount of comfort in being like, okay, I saw my product go back to you. I have my receipt for my refund right here, versus traditional e-com returns where you're waiting maybe like 2 to 3 weeks for your refund to come through at the end of the day. So I would say like what's easy to the customer, what's faster for them to get their money back is always going to be the primary driver. And obviously this is much more sustainable. So I see that as a really good halo effect there as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was just interested. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so Ladue, I know you get to see a ton of different customers from day to day. Do you have any customers that are doing really interesting things for that post journey? Are they reaching out via email like Adam mentioned? Are they pushing people back in store? Would love to hear what you're seeing on that front.
Yeah, I mean, obviously email plays a big part, SMS plays a big part, right? Pushing people back into e-com, pushing people back in the store, and it really just depends on if they're if they've got retail, right? But yeah, I mean, obviously there's big opportunities, getting much more into kind of segmentation, especially with the email, especially with SMS, segmenting all that out across those channels. So yeah, I mean, in short, yes.
Great. Adam, I'm going to ask you to put on your brand hat from the Dress the Population side. How do you really treat these different customers, these like first-time customers, their first time interacting with you is making a return?
Yeah, so, being in the special occasion dresses, it's kind of a hard category, right? Like in terms of holiday, right? Most people are buying for themselves. They're not buying for other people. So what we're trying to drive is for people to consume that product or use it and wear it to something during the holiday season. So we're focused on mitigating as much returns post December as possible, right? We're not so much in the gifting, side of stuff, right? But on the post-purchase side to us, we're fine taking it back, obviously. We'll take it back. We're trying to get them back to buy something, right? Our big seasons are spring and summer, so we get hyper-focused on actually getting that customer back for another event, right? The customers that we see that are buying from us probably have multiple events throughout the year, so we really think if they know our brand. And the other thing is, I know someone talked about product earlier, right? We're hyper focused on product. We think it all starts there, right? If your product, is subpar or something like that, then you're always going to have a return issue, right? So, being product focused, we're glad we get to get a return. To be honest, that means they tried on our product. Hopefully, they loved our product and they're going to come back and buy again from us one day.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I think it's really interesting to see all these different strategies that we have in place. But one of the nice things is across the board, if someone bought online, then you have their email address. So you have that ability to get that information from them to, like we said earlier, reach out 48 hours after, see if they actually like the product or not, how they're feeling about things. But yeah, really interacting with your customers and using email as that channel, because listen, retention.com, we capture a lot of emails and we see a lot of emails sent out. And we can tell you that from looking across over 2,000 different Klaviyo setups, the email that gets opened more often than any other email is the order confirmation email. So those shipping notifications, and those are 4 or 5 touches that can really be part of that post-consumer journey. You can send we've received your order, we've confirmed your order, we've shipped your order is arriving. You can send your order has arrived, how did you like it? Will you send us feedback? There's so many ways to actually talk to that customer post-journey, and really utilizing email as that channel to have that conversation with that customer. Also SMS. SMS is very conversational. Did you receive your product yet? 1 or 2. Did you like your product? 1 through 5. There's really easy ways to keep in touch with these customers as we go on that post journey. So using those emails that they will actually open and those texts that they will actually respond to can be really helpful to establish your brand when it comes into that post consumer journey, especially if it's one of their first times actually interacting with your brand. So we're going to move into a deeper conversation about those relationships. So I know that, Eleanor, we already kind of talked about some of this bad customer behavior that's coming in. 13% is wild. I did not realize the number had gotten that high. So all of you that have tucked in tags and worn something and tried to return it, we're looking at you. But how do you protect your brand from that bad customer behavior? How do you, we've talked about making it really easy for customers to do returns and building that loyalty, but we don't want some of these people back. So how do we protect brands from that bad customer behavior?
Yeah, I think this is where there's two parts to my answer. The first is the power of having a network behind your solution is super important. What one person might do at Dress the Population, maybe they get caught, but then they're going to jump to Abercrombie or they're going to jump to Walmart and try to do this bad behavior there. So you may have never seen this person before. I guarantee you they've tried it somewhere else. So that's where it's really important to have something that does look agnostically across the industry so that we can help you with that. And I think my second part of this is that's obviously a ton of data. So it's where it's important to have machine learning and AI solutions that can rapidly evolve to these bad behaviors. They can do things like identity analysis. So maybe Megan is out here very much trying to hide who she is, but Signifyd is able to say like, no, like we can tell this is Megan, like we need to block her, and doing that kind of work for bad behavior. I think it's interesting to talk about this in the context of like customer relationship management too. Since we are a fraud company first, we have different privacy standards that we are upheld to. So our work is very much focused much more around like protection and bottom line versus being like, hey, this is obviously like Megan, like we think, why don't you do some like marketing stuff with her? So there's good and bad power that comes from the amount of data that we have.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting space that you get to play in versus, the rest of us that are trying to get everyone to buy. We see Signifyd kind of putting on the brakes, but Lydia, coming from that marketing front, how do you really make sure that those customers, after they have that experience, that you're getting that right message out, that you're not sending them the same product that they just returned? Like, how do we really build up on that relationship of how do you still want to keep buying from us?
I mean, we frankly don't get super in the weeds with that kind of thing, right? In terms of like the returns. And that whole experience around that. We leverage some of the cool tools and vendors in our network like you guys to work on that. So I wouldn't say that there's a whole lot from a campaign and messaging perspective we do there often. So yeah, leave it up to the pros on the vendor side.
Love to see it. Does anyone else have something they want to contribute on this front? Aaron, we haven't heard from you in a minute.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like how to kind of swing that into like the current conversation. I mean, real-time data is key. Like being able to track not only just kind of like your customer behavior across all touch points, but also being able to track issues as they arise so that you're able to then fix those issues as they arise in real time is something that's super important. And so, having any type of analytics tool that is able to provide you that real-time data so that you are able to track what is happening with your customers and also what's happening on the website as well as your campaigns, even with the returns. Like I think that is something that's really critical and everyone should look into having a tool that's going to be able to provide that type of service.
I love that. Adam, anything from you before we move to our last topic?
No, I would just say like, we don't see across so many, stores, right? So we know what our customers do. We know who, are problem returners. So we try to mitigate that the best we can. With that being said, it's really hard to in today's environment, right? So, doing the polar opposite of kind of, rewarding good behavior is kind of how we've attacked it, right? But yeah. It's good to have tools that can see, people across thousands of stores.
Yeah, and it's really valuable to really understand that customer and their entire experience. Things like TripleWhale, where you can see where that customer is interacting with your brand across different platforms. products like Signifyd, where you can see where that customer is interacting across different stores, are really, really interesting. And then also, just your direct tools, like seeing what emails that people are opening and seeing if there's any relationships there, but also making sure that you're balancing your brand and your messaging with a really good policy. And a lot of it is really just being clear and upfront with your customers as well. Different return policies are acceptable the same way that there's discounts and different shipping. So there's so many different ways that we can actually start tailoring returns so that you're protecting those good customers and their experience, while you're also making sure that those abusive returners, those people that are buying a bunch of items and then returning it, they're using your online store as a closet or trying on things. We can change their behaviors by kind of altering how we talk to each of these specific customers. So a lot of this does come down to segmentation and personalization, as well as using the data tools that are available to you. So there's tons of options available out there for all of your brands, because this is a hard time. This is a lot of money coming back into the doors, and it's really important to treat all of those customers differently based on how, what, and why.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Like with Rekeepit, we're trying to build the community of people that make conscious decisions, right? So I think it's like on the flip side, right? Like if we can bring that community to a brand and say, hey, we have 30,000 members that are willing to commit to not return, we think that's a very valuable asset as well, right? So I think if we look at it from that perspective, we can embrace that that towards other brands as well, right?
Absolutely. I think I would love to see that if I'm someone that personally very much cares about the environment, and I would love to be rewarded for committing to either returning in store or not returning my product, rather taking a discount. So I would start using something like Rekeepit as a discovery tool to find what other companies are going to reward me for this behavior, are going to help me do that. And I think as a brand, it would be a really good flag to put out there that you're thinking about that holistic view. You're thinking about that customer all the way through and into that return space. So, there's great ways that we can signal to our customers our intent, and that we also intend to treat them, with that same respect. And we want them to have that really good customer experience, that we're setting ourselves up to provide them with an excellent experience, which I think dovetails quite nicely into our final topic, which is how do we use returns to drive value and customer loyalty? So I'll open up the floor on this one. I'm sure everyone has a couple different ideas here, but if anyone would like to chime in first.
Yeah, I can jump in. Obviously, that's the essence of Rekeepit, in a nutshell, right? Rewarding customers for not returning, right? So, I think as we expand upon that, we can definitely add other avenues for rewarding them. What's nice about Rekeepit is we've really put the power in the brand's hands, right? So whether they want to offer exchanges or whatever, it doesn't have to be completely not returned, right? So they can use it as a loyalty incentive for whether it's their VIP customers or whether it's all customers, right? There can be different tiers of what they want to offer and what those benefits are. So we definitely see, that you can drive, value back to the customer via returns.
I love that.
I was just about to say, I think Signifyd has a similar approach where we want every brand we work with to feel empowered to set up these great, amazing returns flows, because we've seen historically people don't want to necessarily do it because they're scared of the cost or scared of all the returns. So I love the idea of we can help alleviate that fear. So then you can use tools like Rekeepit very confidently. You can use tools like anything with an instant refund super confidently. So I'm seeing a lot more around this, around returns being more in the forefront of our digital e-commerce owners' minds for 2024. I think what I love about Rekeepit is it also puts power in the hands of the consumer to kind of drive their own destiny a little bit as well, versus you have to wait to be rewarded.
Yeah, or you have to be handed down what your choices are from the brand. It feels a lot more collaborative, like you get to really choose how you're going to space.
And we did away with final sale too, which was a huge customer service issue for us, right? So, you know, I think 43% of our phone calls were related to final sale and people not seeing it, you know, or at least saying they didn't see it, right? So it always put us in an adverse situation with our customer. You know, it was there, they're saying it wasn't there. So, you know, the customer is going to win 99% of those. With that being said, by doing away with that, you know, it's definitely helped from a brand loyalty perspective in terms of getting people back, them having that option to do it or not do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seeing that bright red all caps letters on every page, check out.
It's funny because we had customers calling saying, hey, I'll pay full price if I have the option to return it. So,
Wow.
you know, going either way, it had adverse situations, right? So, you know, it definitely has done it's done a very good job for what we were trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I mean that's such a really like raw take on that is people just don't know. It's hard. It's still hard on e-commerce, and I think one of the lovely things of working in the e-commerce industry is that we're all also consumers. You know, we all know which sites that we really like. You know, I bought plenty of things over the holiday season where the returns window was extended, so I could buy it in November, and if I was giving as a gift in December, it can still be returned in January or February. So we've all experienced what a good journey is, and I'm sure that none of us have really loved that final sale button, and really taking that away and thinking about those customers from the viewpoint of all of us being customers. You know, we all get to do this all the time, so it's a nice take on what really is valuable to people. They would rather pay more money if they have the optionality of getting rid of it, or you know, they would rather pay less money if they really know they're going to keep it. Erin,
Yeah.
I saw somebody chime in.
Yeah, I feel like the big overarching message behind everything is like, keep it simple for your customers. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Put yourself in the customer's shoes. What is going to make a beautiful experience for you? One, I'm going to kind of put a little spin on the return conversation. It is another, you know, it is another avenue of returns, but even, you know, companies that are able to reuse some type of their products. So for instance, like the cosmetic industry, it is like $1 billion industry. What do we do with these empties? And a lot of companies I'm starting to see are putting loyalty and returning the empties into one really attractive incentive. And so by returning your empties of your makeup cases, you're able to get, you know, X amount of points that are now turning into dollars that you can use towards next purchases. So just another really beautiful way of like also kind of utilizing returns in other ways and utilizing old products and being able to help your customers have more of a sustainability way of shopping, but now also incentivizing them to continue buying with you too. And I'm bringing up that example because one company just did that to me, and I have now become like a lifelong customer of theirs, as well as just making the return policy in general super easy for me to do.
I love that. Yeah, DSW has been one of my favorites. This is just a shout out to them, not affiliated, but you can go in any of their stores and they'll have a donation bin and you get loyalty points for donating your old shoes. So I already need to get them out of my closet. You know, a lot of them are probably too worn to go to a donation or secondhand shop. So it's a really great way to close that loop. The Ordinary as well, they'll take your recycling of any of your skincare products, regardless of the brand. And those are two really good activations. Also bring those customers into the store, which I think we were also talking about earlier, of trying to incentivize your customer to come in store, whether it's to make that return for free, or whether it's, you know, to get a discount or be able to shop in site. Yeah, so offering that come in store discount is a really cool way to, you know, introduce the brand even further, to bring that person actually into your brick and mortar location if you have that, or to get them to further interact with your brand.
And I think that you've really kind of like hit the nail on the head in everyone's discussions as well too, is I think that you need to take the thinking away from the customer. If the customer has to think about what to do with this or the complications of like what's going to happen if I buy this, you've already stopped the customer from not only just purchasing the product, but probably ever being a return customer again. So I feel that if you're taking the what ifs out of the whole buying process, it is going to make it just that much more clear for them to go ahead and buy with you and then return and buy from you again.
I love it.
I would say to add to that, make sure with those returns flows, you're using dynamic content, right? Based off of the browsing and purchase data, previous browsing and purchase data that you have, right? So making sure that you have the right marketing tech stack, of course, to be able to do that is a big opportunity.
Love that. Any other contributions from our experts here before we open up to the floor?
I think the last thing I just want to also note, going back to the returns as well too, and then also kind of utilizing some data. If, the last kind of step for a lot of customers is hopefully not, but it might be returning their product. And if that is a bad experience, good luck ever getting a referral from these. And another really interesting piece of data that we collected over 2023 is that approximately 12% of customers were referred by their friends. Wow. So just really kind of recognize also the significance of that recommendation, especially when it comes to now also that younger consumer. They're seeing past the, the TikToks and the Instagram content from the influencers. It now really is kind of trying to stem from those like friend recommendations. So every single person that's having a bad return experience or just bad customer experience, you are missing that opportunity for that referral that's now going to open up that customer base as well. So just wanted to kind of also put that mention there.
Love that. No, that's such a great point. Awesome. So time for any Q&A from the audience. You guys haven't been the chattiest bunch, but you can use the questions to drop any questions you might have in there. I know our experts covered a lot of different topics. We will also be sending out a recording of this webinar, so you guys will be able to access this and chat with any of our amazing panelists any further. So I'll give it like 1 more minute for questions. I'm sure someone's curious about something, hopefully, but if not, you can drop in what your New Year's resolution is, what's your favorite color, anything you'd like.
Yeah, give me ideas for New Year's resolutions so I can actually fill this template I put together.
Journaling every day, that's a new one. I get like 2 sentences in, but it's happening, so. Love that.
Actually, this year I was going to do more cold plunges because
oh God. You want to start that in January?
I know, especially like I live in cold place too, right? I'm leaving the cold to go into the cold. But I did try it a little bit at the end of the year, and I have to admit, like, it is amazing how you feel afterwards. So I'm giving it a try.
Yeah, but you have to get in.
Yeah, I know. It is the difficult part.
You have to do 3 full minutes to get the maximum benefits. That's the
I'm up to 2. I'm up to 2. So it's a process.
Right. Well, now that we've found out who are the crazy panelists. Great. So it looks like we don't have any questions, guys. So we'll close things out here. We'll send you guys the recording as soon as possible. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. We really appreciate your time, and go kick butt in 2024.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.